Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are uncovering a pretty mind-blowing secret. The math, the science, the medicine, and even the schools we rely on every single day, they were actually pioneered centuries ago. We tend to think of our modern, hyper-connected world as this totally recent invention. But the truth is, the actual foundation was laid way before the digital age.
So before we really get going, I want you to ask yourself something. Where did the code for your favorite app or the GPS map on your phone or even the hospital down the street actually come from? We take all this stuff completely for granted, right? But it didn't just magically appear. It's the direct result of this incredible period in human history where diverse minds all came together to solve the literal mysteries of the universe.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to breeze through 6 key areas: the House of Wisdom, math that powers computers, the birth of hospitals, mapping our planet, robotics and engineering, and finally, the first true university. Let's just dive right in.
Starting off with Section 1, the House of Wisdom. We're traveling back to 8th century Baghdad, the bustling capital of the Abbasid Empire, to visit an absolutely incredible institution.
Now, the House of Wisdom was not just your average library. It was literally a global center of research, translation, and intense intellectual debate. These scholars weren't just sitting around hoarding dusty old scrolls. No, they were actively hunting down ancient Greek, Persian, and Indian texts, translating them into Arabic, and then, here's the kicker, they debated and actually improved upon those ancient ideas through rigorous theory and real experimentation.
And bringing all these diverse thinkers together, it created a massive intellectual powerhouse. You had male and female scholars from all sorts of different faiths and ethnicities working right alongside each other. The Abbasid caliphs were so completely dedicated to this pursuit of knowledge that translators were often paid the literal weight of their completed books in pure gold. Can you imagine? It was a culture entirely driven by a pure, unadulterated love for discovery.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, math that powers computers. Let's look at how the House of Wisdom built the absolute bedrock of our modern tech.
So, before a truly brilliant mathematician named Al-Khwarizmi came along, civilizations like the Greeks and the Babylonians could solve complex math equations, sure, but only for very specific, isolated examples. Al-Khwarizmi completely changed the game. He introduced the concept of manipulating symbols and using variables as placeholders. This was huge because it allowed mathematicians to find universal general solutions that actually work with any numbers. With his book Algebra, he basically gave birth to algebra.
And his influence is so incredibly massive that the Latinized version of his name, Algorithmus, actually gave us the word algorithm. Just think about that for a second. The exact same step-by-step mathematical logic he developed over 1,000 years ago is literally what powers your internet searches, your social media feeds, and pretty much every video game you play today. It's wild.
All right, Section 3, the birth of hospitals. We're looking at the origins of modern healthcare and the medieval Islamic prototype known as a Bimastan, which is a Persian word meaning asylum of the sick.
What is genuinely breathtaking about this era is their super progressive philosophy. Just look at the policy statement from Cairo's massive 8,000-bed Mansouri hospital. They ensured that advanced medical care was totally free and accessible to absolutely everyone. It didn't matter what your wealth was, your background, or whether you had a job or not. Everyone got care.
Inside a Bimaristan, patients weren't just sitting there waiting out an illness. A hakim or senior physician actively treated them. These places were doing it all. They served as medical centers, convalescent homes, asylums, and even medical schools. And getting to be a doctor? Not easy. Candidates were aggressively questioned, and only if they passed these super rigorous exams were they officially licensed to practice medicine.
We also absolutely have to talk about a medical genius named Ibn Sina, who's often known in the West as Avicenna. His masterpiece, The Canon of Medicine, was so incredibly comprehensive that it became the standard medical textbook in Europe for centuries. He laid the groundwork for testing new drugs in human trials, pointing out that you actually have to test on human bodies. He even figured out that tuberculosis was contagious and straight up invented the practice of quarantine, staying isolated when you're sick to stop the spread, over 1,000 years ago.
Up next, Section 4, mapping our planet. Let's shine a light on the visionary scholars who totally revolutionized how we view our globe.
Back in 1154, a geographer named Muhammad al-Idrasi was hired by King Roger II of Sicily to compile a map of the known world. And al-Idrasi basically created the medieval equivalent of Google Earth. By interviewing travelers and crowdsourcing tons of data about climates, local practices, and geographic features, he created this stunning 9-foot-long map. It was so accurate that European explorers used it totally unedited for hundreds of years. Oh, and fun fact, in Islamic cartography, maps were actually oriented with south at the top, which placed the holy city of Mecca right at the center.
All right, moving into Section 5, Robotics and Engineering. Let's see how all this innovation built into an area you probably wouldn't expect from the 12th century.
Meet Ismail al-Jazari.
This guy was a pioneer mechanical engineer who was creating programmable automated robots centuries before the Industrial Revolution even kicked off. He wrote this incredibly famous book detailing over 100 ingenious automated machines. We're talking water-powered clocks shaped like giant elephants, early concepts for flying machines, and even a musical robot band that floated on a boat just to entertain guests at royal parties. How cool is that?
Now, here is how these devices actually worked under the hood. First, water flows in and turns a paddle wheel. Next, that wheel spins a crankshaft, which converts the rotary motion into linear motion. Finally, this moves pistons up and down to powerfully draw up water. By inventing this specific process, al-Jazari pioneered the exact same mechanical concepts, crankshafts, and pistons that power the internal combustion engines in our modern cars today. And finally, we arrive at Section 6, the first true university. Let's wrap up by looking at how all of this incredible knowledge was actually preserved and passed down.
This brings us to the amazing legacy of Fatima el-Fihri. After moving to Fez, Morocco, this truly visionary woman used her inheritance to build a mosque back in 859 CE. As time went on, that site grew into a massive educational center, offering advanced instruction in everything from math and astronomy to medicine and law. They even had research grants and organized teaching circles. Today, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin is recognized by both UNESCO and Guinness World Records as the oldest continually operating higher learning institution in the whole world. She literally handed down the concept of structured higher education to us.
As we finish up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this empowering thought. From the algebra powering your laptop, to the engine mechanics in your car, to the very concept of the hospital and the university, you are the inheritor of this amazing Islamic Golden Age. The blueprint for tomorrow was written over 1,000 years ago. So, with all this incredible inherited knowledge sitting right at your fingertips, what will you invent next?